world is generally indifferent if you're not solving a real pain point. And they may not care about the cool logo or the cool brand for them. And so that was something that was really interesting when you go from the investing background to being an operator, that we're going to say no to giving you money and capital. And so if you're on the other side, you have to get really used to getting told no like a million times, whether you're raising capital, you're trying to convince your smartest best friends to quit their high paying jobs to come work for you. You're talking to their parents, you're selling their parents and why they should come join you at 25. Your job also is really selling.
It's time to reinvent.
Welcome to the Lessons of Entrepreneurship, the journey of reinvention. Today, I've got Benji here with me. My table is moving. There we go. I've got Benji here, and I'm so excited to have you here, Benji. A lot of founders are first-time founders, and you have done this, and this is the second time around. So we're excited to get into the founder's mind the second time around. I'm just going to give people a bit of a background. Benji is a founder and CEO of Gatby, which is a groundbreaking energy choice platform. You've gone from Wall Street's private equity, which is a dream for most people, to now building not one but two energy startups in this industry that just seems like very old, very dominant. How did you know it was time to step away from Wall Street and investing to jump into being a founder, and why this industry?
Yeah, I guess there are probably two parts to it. For me, I thought Wall Street was awesome. I loved doing energy investing. I was at Morgan Stanley Energy Partners. And so you get to see a lot of really great companies. You get to invest with really great management teams. And that's funny to think about. I was like 24 at the time. I started Nutiliti at 25. But I think for me, I've always been interested in energy. I grew up in Houston, which is the energy capital of the world. My family's in energy. You end up just surrounded by it. And so I was always passionate about the industry. And I think when you spend enough time meeting with management teams and they've discovered really good solutions for problems within the space, it became more obvious to me that, man, it would be really exciting to be on the other side of the table. There was a lot I was learning from investing in these companies, et cetera. But I think what I got really excited about was, hey, these are just ordinary people, right? That were able to raise capital, build a team. They saw a problem and then they built a solution for it. Obviously, there's a lot of prestige and status associated with doing private equity. For me, I was like, hey, it'd be really cool to go be an operator. And so that's what really led me to it, at least to leave Morgan Stanley at the time. And obviously the energy business, there are a lot of different places where you can think about energy, right? Whether it's extracting oil out of the ground or your solar or renewables or you're transporting energy. But electricity and infrastructure utilities is something I also spend a lot of time in. I was very compelled by the unsexiness of it. I think there are a lot of really cool, sexy industries out there. I think there are industries that are not as sexy, where there are a lot of problems that go overlooked because founders don't really want to go build products there. And so I decided on utilities, and I've been in utilities the last 5 years, both the companies.
Yeah, when I saw that, I said utilities. Okay, and utilities again? Okay, we've got to talk about this because it's something that we're not seeing that someone is seeing that's really important there. I like that you talked about your in-depth knowledge of the industry, which I think sometimes the industry seems like you can't think about getting into it because you don't know enough or you don't have enough of a background. So I'm interested, you jump into being an operator. What are the surprising things that you had to either learn or you had to unlearn from the world you come from?
When you're investing in companies, you say no a lot, all the time to people, right? You're always like, hey, no, we thought you had an interesting idea or an interesting platform, whatever, but we're going to say no to giving you money and capital. And so if you're on the other side, you have to get really used to getting told no like a million times. So that was one big sort of shock. I think the other part of it is the world is generally indifferent if you're not solving a real pain point. And they may not care about the cool logo or the cool brand if it's not solving a real problem for them. And so that was something that was really interesting when you go from the investing background to being an operator. So much of your job also is really selling. And so that's also something that's totally different than being an investor. You're not selling as much. You're more focused on evaluating deals, looking for great companies to invest in, et cetera. Whereas when you're an operator or you're starting a company, you're really selling everyone, right? Whether you're raising capital, you're trying to convince your smartest best friends to quit their high paying jobs to come work for you. You're talking to their parents, you're selling their parents and why they should come join you at 25 and all that kind of stuff. And those are some of the biggest, I think, differences between the two jobs, at least.
Did you enjoy the process of selling before, or was it something that you just had to switch gears? That shift from now needing to sell is a really big hurdle for a lot of people. So I'm interested, like, how did you approach it?
I'm a pretty social guy, and so I've always felt comfortable meeting new people, getting to know them. And so for me, sales is like a natural extension of that, right? When we were starting the company, you spend so much time getting to know potential customers, and it's really just conversational. I think it's a learned skill over time, right? Getting people to trust you, to trust that, hey, when you're asking about their problem, that you can actually build something for them. Sales is something that can only really be learned by reps and getting to know people and doing things and being uncomfortable, if that makes sense. That's the way I thought about it.
It totally makes sense. I'm interested to know, you're telling your friends and you're saying to them, hey, you've got a really great job and a really great life, and this has been your dream, but walk away from it and come and join me. That point where you're thinking to yourself, because you don't know if this is going to be a success or not. You're not
Totally.
sure. You're hoping and you're committed to it, but you're not sure. What is your thought process in that? Because I think a lot of people get to that point of, okay, you need the best people. What can you offer the best people to walk away from their already good thing that they're in?
Yeah, the really challenging part about getting really talented people is that they're already making a lot of money. My co-founders are coming from Microsoft. My other co-founder came from Goldman. And so you can't really just entice them with dollars. For me, everything that I've told people that have come and gotten to work with me in my companies is that, hey, you're going to have a ton of autonomy. You're going to work on a really interesting problem, with really impressive people. And more importantly, like just that freedom and independence is something that I think a lot of people really crave. And so I think being able to articulate, hey, how can we cross the gap of not having any customers, not having any capital? My view was, if I can convince them that I'm going to be able to sell as hard as I can and we'll be able to get customers and we'll generate revenue, all you have to have is a little bit of faith in me. That sort of made it a lot easier to bring people on. And I think the mission of the company has to resonate with folks. And I think that can sometimes be challenging if you're not SpaceX and you're putting people on Mars, right? But I think being able to say, hey, we're impacting the lives of hundreds of thousands of consumers with our product, that actually resonates quite a bit for some folks, right?
So interesting. Now, tell us, Benji, because energy, old industry, not the first thing people think about when they're thinking of jumping into entrepreneurship and being an operator. I'm thinking dominated by governments or big corporations. But the mission you had, maybe you can speak to that so that we can follow your story.
Yeah, sure. I think for most people, when they think about their utilities, no one's ever been like, utilities are fun, right? Most people will generally have not a great view of monopolies, utilities, sort of complex billing structures and practices. And that's the case in markets really all over the world, right? You have areas or countries where energy is deregulated and you can actually pick your own energy provider. In the US, you have 16 states approximately that have that. And in Texas, you have 7.2 million people that can pick their own energy provider, right? Which is awesome. And really what I found was that a lot of people really struggled with making an educated choice. And a lot of folks are on really predatory plans or expensive rates. They don't know how to sift through all the different energy providers. So for some context, there are over 50 energy providers in Texas that you can choose from, right? And so those individual providers have tens of plans as well. And so you can start to understand how complicated and how intimidating it is for an everyday person to come in and make an educated decision. And so the mission for us was, hey, how can we take a process that's incredibly opaque and complicated and make it really simple for consumers to find an affordable and reliable energy plan? And how can we do it in a way that feels like a modern platform, looks like what you'd expect from Expedia or Kayak or Robinhood, et cetera. And so that's been our mission. And we've like really underpinned that with our features. But that was the goal. Electricity expenses are generally the second most expensive thing outside of your mortgage and your rent. And so it's something that people look at every month. And we thought to ourselves, if we can help people save some money here, that'd be pretty cool.
It's such a powerful mission because even if you're given the choice, you don't know what you're looking at. You,
Totally.
it's just like guesswork. I guess if that one is cheaper, that's the thing with a lot of people. And it's that monthly bill that you don't think you can change very much. And wow, this is really interesting. I like that you mentioned Robinhood, the way Robinhood went into investing and made it something that the average person can understand and have access to, or maybe I'm just, let me know.
I think from a design perspective, they're a great inspiration. You think about the next generation of consumers, every sort of class, right, that's coming up. What is their expectation around really modern, intuitive interface? And I think that's one thing, right? It's easy to go in and buy stocks. But I think the second part around democratizing access to trading, right, and building wealth through your investments at Robinhood had, it's a similar mission as us. Product that we just launched a few months ago was called Gatby Group Rate. And our idea there and the novelty around it was everyone signs up for electricity, but everyone's doing it by themselves. And so what we said was, we're going to go to the energy providers and say, hey, we have 5,000 people, right, who are all joining a group together. And we want you guys as the energy providers to bid your lowest rates, and the lowest rate wins, right? And so now you're introducing buying power to a bunch of consumers that were signing up for electricity by themselves, but because they're signing up at the same time, now you're getting that group buying power, which lowers the rate materially and drives serious savings. And so we think it's what we call the power to the people approach. If you can get communities together, if you can get people to align together, that actually drives that bulk purchasing power, like Costco is another example, et cetera. You're getting these bulk savings. And so I think Robinhood is a great example of that, right? How do you arm the rebels, like the little guys, so then they can compete with these big incumbents or big utility providers that exist in the market, if that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. I see it's a revolutionary thing for energy. Having control over your energy is something that hasn't been there since probably people had energy of fire. That was the only way you could
Yeah.
control your own energy. And people felt really pushed around by the forces around energy, especially you think of places where it's very cold and the heating and just feeling helpless to that. Wow, very interesting. Tell us about your first startup challenges in hindsight. You can see them better. Any top of mind moments of breakthrough that you can speak to?
Yeah. So the first company that we started was called Nutiliti, current one called Gatby. And Nutiliti was really focused around utility bill pay, right? The whole idea was, hey, if you have roommates, for example, right, we're going to help you split the bills for your water, your gas, your electricity, your internet. And ultimately, it's grown a ton. And basically, now Utility is doing utility billing for large property managers. So when renters are moving into a house, for example, it's helping them split their bills and invoicing them for the water and gas that they're using and consuming. There are a lot of lessons, right? Ultimately, the company I founded, the second one, was actually a spin out of the previous company I started. And one sort of painful lesson is the co-founder dynamic and how that can break apart if you have different views on vision. Ultimately, I was really excited about solving the electricity choice problem for consumers, while they were more passionate about this utility billing problem. And ultimately, it became obvious that we had to separate the businesses. And that's always going to be messy. Anytime you're splitting apart businesses, some employees are staying with utilities, some people are going Gatby, those kinds of things. And so I think a lesson there is making sure, hey, you're constantly checking in with your co-founders around vision, the alignment around that, et cetera. Understanding the unit economics of your business and making sure those are strong and suitable, that allows you to become profitable. Understanding, hey, what kind of investors should you raise from? Some that are maybe strategic or VC, et cetera. These are all sort of common things that you can go and hear on really any startup podcast. Those are all very sort of foundational for me between my first company and my second company.
Before you went into this, are you listening to every kind of startup podcast? What are you doing that sort of gives you the confidence to say, okay, I'm ready?
Yeah, I probably started listening to more startup podcasts after we had started the company, because you're trying to like learn everything at once because you realize how underprepared you are. But I think definitely they're all the traditional podcasts, right? Like How I Built This by Guy Raz. That was one that was certainly inspirational for me. Lenny Rachitsky's podcast, he's a former PM at Airbnb, and he has this amazing sort of product management podcast that I thought was great. And then one that I'd recommend really anyone that's thinking about starting a company to listen to is a podcast called Founders Podcast. And this is a podcast that David Senra puts on. And it's amazing because it goes through all the biographies of founders, really. Patagonia, Red Bull, Disney, Tesla, all these amazing companies, and Dyson's another great one. And you learn about, hey, what were the trials and tribulations that these founders went through? What did they think in their eyes after they did their biographies or autobiographies? What led to their success, or what were some of the failures? And so those are things that were super helpful for me as I was starting my company, and I continue to listen to.
The first challenge you mentioned, I think, is a very common one, where what you both see as a business, if you have a co-founder, can be very different. And it's not only business, you see it in any kind of partnership. You see it in music groups, you see it in different social spaces where the idea of where are we going becomes separate, and then you've got to go in different ways. Second time around, knowing that the relationship between the co-founder and the mission and the vision. What are you doing actively to keep the vision for yourselves, both of you, and the entire team as well?
For Gatby, for example, I'm the sole board member. So ultimately, I get to say, hey, this is where we're headed. That's what I believe, whether we're right or wrong. It's not really a decision by committee. And so I would say that was the biggest sort of tactical thing for the second company that I focused on. Hey, you know what? We're going to just have myself. This is going to be the team that we're going to build around, right? This is where we're headed. Obviously, you know that things can change, but ultimately, hey, there's not a decision by committee, which complicates a lot of the decision-making process, right? And so it's true to what I believe we should be headed and where we go next. And I think that is probably the biggest thing. But I would also say with the communication in any relationship, in any partnership, relationship, employees, your founding team, communication is so important. And so really every week communicating, hey, this is where we are. This was the past. This is where we're headed. Here's what's changing. Here's what's not changing. Making sure everyone's still aligned, they're swimming the same direction, I think is so critical. And communication is such a big part of that with your partners and employees and team members.
How much of an influence do investors have in this process? Because I'm thinking that if you've got the co-founder and then you've got the investors and then you've got to manage all those expectations and all those opinions and directions. From your experience.
Yeah, it's a great question. For me, especially at Gatby, having really aligned investors before we even raised capital, saying, hey, this is where we're going. If you're highly convicted in this, just like we are, right? Then, hey, come on into the cap table. We're going to let you invest. But if you're not, we don't let you invest, right? Because you really do want that perfect alignment. And investors are super great. Really at both my companies, they've been spectacular. And a lot of it's been because they have the gray hairs, right? I was 25 when I started Nutiliti and I was 28 when I started Gatby. There is a lot of life and a lot of painful lessons that I haven't been able to experience yet, but they have. And so they've been a really great sounding board when we're thinking through hiring decisions. We're thinking through go-to-market strategy. We're thinking through building scalable systems for a firm. And how do you, as you grow revenue and as you grow your employee count, how do you make sure that culture stays the same? And they're a really great resource bank to draw on. A lot of them are within the energy industry. So they're able to give us really good context around what's happening in the market, right? Hey, what are some things that perhaps myself or my team members are missing that they see in their day-to-days that could improve our product, right? Could be better for consumers, be better for the overall offering of Gatby. And so that's been awesome. I can't tell you, how wonderful it's been having really great and supportive investors that understand a lot about our business, because I have a lot of friends that have raised for investors, they're founders as well, that have raised for investors where incentives were misaligned. And that's a really painful experience. I have a buddy that got fired from his company. He was VC backed in Austin and he got fired. And that was really painful. And it really illustrates the power of having really great investors behind you and why being perhaps more deliberate or slower is really important.
That's a gem right there, because I think sometimes when you haven't done it, you think it's just about the money and the experience of someone, but understanding those finer things that can really tear a relationship apart and really being aligned on what it is that you're trying to do. So thanks for telling us that, Benji. As a founder, you're learning at the same time, you're executing, and you're thinking ahead. How are you balancing those three things? And what are you doing? Because I'm thinking, what does the day of a founder look like, or the week of a founder look like in terms of those three activities? Because that's a tricky thing to balance.
Yeah, it's really tricky. I think the really nice part about my job is that once you have a really great team that you've delegated a lot of really great execution work to, and you trust them, it's like a tank. You've got different people driving the tank, looking up, all these different sort of things all working together in a cohesive way. For us, it all starts with the customer. And so I'm trying to do customer interviews every other day and ask them about our roadmap. Hey, is this a feature you would use? Why or why not? It's asking them about our current kind of product offering. Hey, what do you think about it? And that really also helps inform what's happening from a business perspective. I spend a lot of time looking at the data of, hey, how many people are coming to our website and how many people are signing up for electricity plans? Could we have made it easier for someone? Like we'll go in and watch user sessions. Hey, what buttons were people clicking on? Should we have provided more detail or context there? And so it's really creating an intersection between our product roadmap and what customers are doing and experiencing live. And the past is data analysis we do to say, hey, how many people are signing up for electricity through our platform? What are our customer support KPIs looking like? All those kinds of things. The present is basically managing, hey, what is our pipeline of sales? What do our marketing channels look like? How are we doing there? Maybe it's investor correspondence, right? Maybe it's doing one-on-ones with team members. Maybe it's doing a new hire recruiting, right? Which we just brought on a new engineer, right? I'm meeting a new potential engineer candidate in Chicago, right? So spending time there and then thinking ahead part happens in the background. Okay, where is Gatby in our life cycle? what does our roadmap look like for the next 3 years, right? How can we continue to deliver more value to our customers? Are there new markets we want to expand to? And so it's really hard to balance. I think at any given moment, maybe you're spending a lot of time doing past analysis, present and future. I never really know if you can hit that equilibrium, but that's the way we generally try to think about this stuff.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, because it's something that you don't know. Am I focusing too much on one thing, or am I doing the right thing? Am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? What are other people doing? You ask yourself those questions. And I think it's interesting that you mentioned that the first one is the recruiting. If you've got the right people, then that allows you to be able to try to juggle that easier. The first time you're hiring, how are you approaching it? Are you going after people you already know? Are you going into the general market?
Yeah, the best candidates we've brought on are people that we've known from our network, that are trusted and known. And we know, hey, they're excited about our mission, right? They're 1 degree separated. I think we always try to either our network or our friends' network or people that have worked with these folks professionally. And then obviously, of course, we use the same sort of job posting websites you guys know, but we have to be more diligent there of, hey, can we talk to some of your former bosses, right? Reference checks and tell us more about yourself. And it's more thoughtful because obviously you're trying to get that same level of detail that we would have gotten from someone in our network, right? But we're looking for people that are excited about what we're doing, people that are passionate. Ultimately, this isn't Goldman Sachs, right? And all you care about is prestige and status. Like, this is really not the place. Ultimately, you have to be excited about delivering really great products for consumers at scale. And we like people that are honest, all the sort of great traits, honest, kind, hardworking. We love people that love being outdoors. We're big skiers. We do an annual ski trip. We always ask jokingly, hey, do you know how to ski? And if someone says no, we say, we'll teach you how to ski. We love people that enjoy the outdoors. We love people that love live music. And generally, we look for folks like that. And ideally, they come through our network. But over time, we've brought people from other places too.
So what's the culture at Gatby? Getting the form of the culture through the recruiting. If someone was to ask you, like, what's the culture here?
Yeah, listen, I think the way I hope it's described, it's a really fun place to work with people that care about the work we're doing, but also their colleagues and team members. It's a tight-knit group. The culture at Gatby, I think, is defined by working on unsexy, complicated problems that drive material savings to consumers and having a lot of fun doing it too. And I think what you can see with our logo, the Space Cowboy, and our playful tone is that that's what we're trying to design. We're trying to make something that's really not fun for people, fun in its own right. And so that's the way I like to describe it, the way I think about it, at least. And certainly how I hope our employees describe it too.
That's wonderful. People say, the founder, you're setting the culture. And it's easy to hear that, but what does it look like for you, the founder, if you're thinking I'm setting the culture?
Longer hair for sure. When I was in private equity, my hair was way shorter. I was just messing around. But I think it's embodying sort of our values, right? I sit at the same desk with all my teammates. There's no nice, cushy office for me. It's a really flat structure. And we have a rule that's like the best idea wins. You could be a junior level employee, but if you have the best idea and what's going to serve our consumer better, it's going to make our company better, then we'll do it. And I think for me, trying to embody sort of our core values, right? But also getting to know every single one of our employees too, and learning, hey, how can I be a better leader and leveling up as well has been a big part of it, I think.
What's been your biggest leadership lesson?
Oh, I think the biggest leadership lesson for me is that try to find what someone is uniquely qualified to do. They may not even know it, but look at where they're delivering most value to your company. And even if it's not their job title, try to find a way to start positioning them to really focus on delivering that key skill. I think there have been people that have come in here. Hank, for example, he used to be in our growth team, basically doing business development. And what we discovered was he was really interested in the operations of what we do and really the product ops and really linking the customer journey to building products and the roadmap and feature development. And so he has this amazing textbook resume that makes him an amazing salesperson and an amazing BD guy. But what we found was that not only was he more passionate about ops, but also he was more uniquely qualified to be successful there. And so I think being able to take a step back and be like, hey, sit down with that employee and say, hey, I think you'd be better at this. You're doing this in your spare time. Can you confirm what I'm thinking here? And then their eyes spark up like, hey, yeah, I've always been pigeonholed to this role because of my past experience, but actually, you know what? I'm going to be better at this. And allowing them to make that transition is really remarkable. That's been an amazing sort of lesson for me is when someone comes in, they may already be good at something, but there's always potential that they could be great at something else, and being able to give them the ability to move laterally within the organization to go pursue that skill has really been an awesome piece for me. That's been great.
Sounds like a really great place to work. I think for the founders that are listening, I think they've heard about selling. You've got to be ready to sell the idea, to sell to the consumer, to sell to investors, to sell to the people recruiting, hiring the best people, allowing them to do what they do best and what they enjoy, and creating a great culture that continues to help people to be motivated to do what it is that you do. Benji, what is it that if you're looking out into the market, what are you excited about right now?
The thing I'm really the most excited about is really more people just being more innovative about having the power to change their electricity bill. The energy industry right now is going through this amazing revolution, right? You've got now batteries coming into the grid. You've got solar, you've got electric vehicles, right? And there are going to be so many new sort of personalized plans available to consumers across the world. Hey, if you have an electric vehicle, here's a plan designed for that. Hey, if you're using 2000 kilowatt hours, here's a plan for that, right? And so I think as the sort of electricity sort of world increases in terms of complexity, in terms of all of these really amazing consumer offerings, right? Like smart thermostats, et cetera, being able to be that trusty Sherpa or guide to consumers as they make these sort of really critical decisions around their home energy. That's what gets me really excited. I think everyone talks about energy and they talk about AI, and the fact that we get to be at the frontier of that and helping homeowners really take control of their power, I think it's going to be an awesome decade and years to come.
I'm excited just listening to you talk about it because I hadn't even thought about the EVs and the way the world is moving. So really, this is groundbreaking energy choice for consumers. So I'm excited to have you, and I'm excited to share this message with people. Thank you so much, Benji. To the audience, if you could please go to gatby.com. It'll be linked in the description /group/rate, where you can learn more about this and take control of your energy. Benji, what do you wish I'd asked that I didn't ask?
Oh, you know what? Probably how can communities engage each other to lower their energy bills? I think that's something that most people don't think about. And I think that's something that I would say is not just in energy. As the world moves towards more social commerce, what other sort of places can consumers band together? Obviously, we have Gatby Group Rate helping people join together to lower their energy bills. Something I'd say is what other places can communities get together to lower the cost of goods, right? As you deal with this world that's experiencing crazy inflation, what other places can folks really leverage the power of their community to increase savings in their everyday lives? That's something I think that I certainly think about a lot now, especially as the world changes. And that's something that is not a traditional question, but something that I certainly have been wrestling with a bit more.
Oh, thank you for that. It's been great. Thank you so much, Benji.
Awesome. Thank you